FIA World Rally Championship is one of motorsport's toughest tests of man and machine. In 1996, 9 rounds spanning 5 continents would decide the 2 titles, the Drivers' and Manufacturers' Championships, and those 9 rallies were very different in character. The International Swedish Rally provided a snowy start to the year. The unique Safari Rally in Kenya, the longest and toughest test of all. The newest event in the World Championship, the Rally Indonesia. The heat and dust of Greece in summer, the Acropolis Rally. South America played host to the Rally Argentina, home of the tango. For many, the home of rallying came next, Finland and the Thousand Lakes Rally. Then the longest journey of the year for the Rally Australia. Europe provided the setting for the final 2 events of the year, Italy's San Remo Rally, and finally the Rally Catalunya in northern Spain.
Just stop. Yes, spot on.
That was the scene in November 1995 when Colin McRae won his home event, the RAC Rally in the United Kingdom, to become the first British driver ever to become World Rally Champion. For 1996, McRae led the challenge for the Subaru team, running with number 1 on his car. Subaru became double world champions in 1995, winning the manufacturer's title as well, and were strong favourites to repeat those victories. McRae, the youngest ever world champion, is nothing if not spectacular. A string of accidents have punctuated his progression to the top. Joining the young Scotsman at Subaru was Sweden's Kenneth Eriksson. He'd taken 2 victories the previous year driving for Mitsubishi, together with a prestigious Asia-Pacific title. The third Impreza would be driven in 1996 by Piero Liati from Italy. Even though it would be his first full season at the top level, he'd won the European Championship, so was no stranger to victory. The strongest challenge to Subaru was expected to come from the Mitsubishi team. Their Lancer Evolution 3 was something of an unknown quantity, but their will to win was enormous. Tommi Mäkinen from Finland was their number 1 driver, although with only 1 previous victory in the World Championship, some predicted he'd be no match for the likes of McRae and Eriksson. Although Mitsubishi would use a variety of drivers during the year, the lion's share of Mäkinen's support would come from the young Englishman Richard Burns, a former British champion. The third team to contest both World Championships was one of the cornerstones of rallying, Ford. They've only actually won the title once, but the team has contested the series for almost as long as anyone can remember. In 1996, their team leader would be Carlos Sainz. The twice world champion is one of Spain's national sporting heroes, with 17 victories from 73 events. Their second car would be in the hands of several drivers during the year, with Belgium's Bruno Thierry and Francois Delacour from France both featuring in the lineup. The snow and ice of Scandinavia in midwinter formed the backdrop to round 1 of the series, the International Swedish Rally. Bitterly cold it may have been, but the spectators were out in their thousands. Held in the very north of Europe, the rally was based in the city of Karlstad. Leg 1 consisted of 9 stages which took the cars northeastwards to their first overnight halt in Falun, led away by last year's winner Kenneth Eriksson.
I'm very happy when I did my move now to the 555 Subaru team, and it's looking very good for the future for me.
Despite his confidence, this was only his first rally for his new team, and the Subaru was taking a little getting used to.
Till hårnål vänster.
The privately entered Toyota team was led by 4-times world champion Juha Kankkunen.
We have to see as private he is. It'd be nice to take on these professionals, you know, so we can but wait and see.
Kankkunen began well. He was equal fastest on the first stage. His Toyota shared the lead with the Mitsubishi of a confident Tommi Mäkinen.
We have done very good work with the car, and it seems that it's been improved again.
Soon Mäkinen was out on his own, although not all the drivers were sharing his luck. Teammate Kenneth Bäcklund was one of them. Colin McRae began well, although he was only too aware that the rally's never been won by a non-Scandinavian.
Opens into 4 right minus over crest. Into 3 left plus over crest. Tightens maybe line 50. 6 left.
Carlos Sainz was competing on his first rally in a Ford since 1988, although he was on the pace right from the start. unlike his teammate Francois Delacour, who seemed to struggle from problem to problem. After power steering failure, a broken turbo on stage 4 dropped Delacour out of the top 10.
It's a long way to go.
Yeah, for sure. But we lose 5 minutes, it's also a lot.
While most of the Europeans were having a relatively problem-free first day, the conditions were causing one or two drivers to hold their breath. Even Toyota's Thomas Rodstrom on his home event was caught out. While Ari Vatanen and co-driver Fabrizia Pons shivered their way through the day with a broken heater in their Ford Escort, McRae was having more serious difficulties. He and Derek Ringer sliding around with some kind of traction problem.
6 crest, 13.
No, we lost all the studs and the front tyres were completely gone after the long stage. It was very gravelly at the start and then icy at the end, so when you come in the ice with no studs, you've got no chance.
Into 6 left, 70.
Any resolve?
Nothing, no. Use a Michelin maybe.
The looks on the faces of the Pirelli engineers said it all. To make matters worse, the problem wasn't confined to McRae.
I find for me it's very dangerous. It's really crazy and not interesting to drive.
At the end of the first leg, it was Mäkinen's Mitsubishi which led, although there was still an awfully long way to go. The second leg of 13 stages took the crews from Falun back to Karlstad in conditions which would make most people stay at home. The Scandinavians are a hardy bunch, though, and the Finns in particular, who are beginning to sense victory. Mäkinen's Mitsubishi led the cars away from Falun, although the Toyota Celica of Kankkunen was only 6 seconds behind.
Really long K left. Tightens.
Then came the surprise of the rally, Carlos Sainz, who was third in a Ford Escort. Sweden is unique in many ways, not least of which is this stage at Torsby, which for 9 months of the year is a lake.
It's quite a lot of people, it's good fun, you can see from long distance and I think it's nice.
Back in the forest once again, Colin McRae was finding day 2 a lot more to his liking.
The conditions are a lot better now. There's a bit deeper snow and the tyres are working and obviously the gearbox is okay today.
By the end of the day, McRae was just 40 seconds behind Juha Kankkunen, who'd slipped to 3rd place. That meant Sainz was 2nd, a terrific performance from a driver supposedly still getting used to his new car.
Good, I will say it has been going well. We didn't have any problem at all with the car.
But the rally leader was still Tommi Mäkinen, who was more relieved than most to have reached the overnight halt.
Yes, I'm very happy because we have been a lot of problem today with the rear diff whole day.
The third and final day saw a loop of 5 stages, which would bring the cars back to Karlstad for an afternoon finish. The tens of thousands of spectators, on 4 legs as well as 2, knew that there was a treat in store. The day would hold mixed fortunes for the Scandinavians, with Thomas Rodstrom destined to finish in 6th place in his Toyota Celica. Ari Vatanen, though, saw his rally end prematurely when he rolled his Ford Escort.
Öget 2 plus.
Kenneth Eriksson brought his Subaru home in 5th place, a slightly disappointing result for the driver who'd won here 12 months previously. Kankkunen began the day badly.
Just, they were plowed on the top of the ditch and just went a bit wide and got stuck for, not for a long time, but after, the airfield was full of snow plus the windscreen inside, so I couldn't see anything in 10Ks and lost about half a minute there.
That allowed McRae to move within striking distance of 3rd place, a position he was to capture with a string of fastest stage times. The battle for the lead was far from over, though. Carlos Sainz began the day just 15 seconds behind Mäkinen and set off to catch the Finn. A transmission problem cost vital seconds, however, and Sainz had to settle for 2nd place.
Good rally for us, first rally with 4 here in Sweden, which normally we have not much experience, and at least we have a good result.
And I think it's an incredible performance and just shows what the man is. Twice world champion, and hopefully he's going to be in a Ford this year.
Sainz's last-minute dramas handed the rally to Tommi Mäkinen, only his 2nd win on a World Championship event. The Finn had driven superbly. He and co-driver Seppo Harjanne hadn't put a wheel wrong and took a well-deserved victory.
Thank you. Feel is very, very great. I'm very happy.
Performing the now traditional donut on ice is a tricky business, yet Tommi made even that look easy. The Swedish rally had kept its Scandinavians' only reputation intact, but only just. Mäkinen's winning margin was just 23 seconds from Sainz, with McRae, Kankkunen and Eriksson making up the rest of the top 5 places. In fact, out of the entire top 10, only 3 were non-Scandinavians. Mäkinen then took an early lead in the Drivers' World Championship with a 5-point advantage over Sainz. The surprise, though, was in the manufacturers' table. Mäkinen's victory, together with Bäcklund winning Group N, gave Mitsubishi a 4-point lead from Subaru. And so to round 2. From the frozen north of Europe, the series moved to Africa in April, so the contrasts couldn't have been more pronounced.
The terrain is incredible, it's really fantastic. The sceneries is something like you've never seen. It's a real test of driver, car, and the team in total.
This is the Safari Rally, held over the Easter weekend in Kenya on Africa's east coast and based in the capital city, Nairobi. The first leg of the rally would consist of 5 competitive sections, covering around 500 kilometres. And first away, the reigning world champion Colin McRae in the first of the Subaru Imprezas.
So I think the car's very good. Obviously, Toyota aren't as strong as they usually are here. I think everybody's got the same opportunity to win here.
Despite only having contested the Safari once before, McRae was the early leader. There were, though, some drivers who'd never competed in Kenya before. One of those was Tommi Mäkinen.
Yeah, it's completely different. It's new element for us, and it's a little bit more like adventure.
After the first section, Mäkinen would be in 3rd place, less than a minute behind McRae. The Ford team had the most experience. Although the car was new to the event, Sainz knew all about the Safari.
I think it's special for everybody because it's completely different than the rest. The approach, the type of car, the preparation, everything.
Sainz was joined by Stig Blomqvist, who was competing on his 25th Safari. When McRae, the early leader, was slowed by a broken drive shaft, Kenneth Eriksson inherited the lead.
300.
It wasn't all good news for Subaru, though. Piero Liatti was forced to drive for most of one section with this puncture, which was changed at the next service halt.
No, the problem is this special stage, 50 kilometers for the finish, is the problem, the small rock, and the tire is completely off.
The Toyota team was represented on the Safari by Ian Duncan, who won the rally 2 years ago. In the absence of Juha Kankkunen, the team would count on the experience of the local driver.
An easy jump to rough.
The Safari is the only endurance event in the World Championship, with helicopters allowed to land and offer assistance to the cars. Despite all the technical backup, the Ford team was quickly in trouble.
Yeah, we have a few problems. One is overheating when I stop the car. And we have vehicles a shock absorber and a drive shaft as well. So at the moment we are having a little bit of problems.
The darkening skies told their own story. Heavy rain caused havoc on this year's rally, with the drivers facing conditions which resembled the RAC rally rather than the normally dry and dusty Safari. Some sections even had to be cancelled. This, believe it or not, is a stage, although it looks more like a river. At the end of the first day, McRae was in third place. Second was held by Tommy Mäkinen, whose co-driver Seppo Harjanne obviously wasn't impressed by the conditions. The overnight leader was Kenneth Eriksson, and the misted-up windscreen seemed to be his only headache. He was well pleased with his performance.
No, the last one was a bit tough because a lot of rain as well. But no, I have been quite gently today and absolutely no problem at all.
Day 2, the longest day, began at 5 in the morning, and the cars would cover over 700 kilometres northwest of Nairobi, around Nakuru and Eldoret, before briefly visiting the Great Rift Valley on their way back to the capital. Day 2 began badly for Eriksson. All his good luck on day 1 deserted him early in the morning.
I got the puncture in the end of the stage. I think I judged it pretty well there, and I'm happy with the stage.
Mäkinen now led the Safari rally, no mean feat at the first attempt. Ian Duncan in the Toyota was playing something of a waiting game. He was well used to the rally and suspected that the pace of the leading drivers was too fast. Something was bound to break. Softly, softly was the way he was planning things. Sure enough, Colin McRae discovered that speed isn't everything. He had a disastrous start to the second day. A faulty intercom meant that he missed a caution from his navigator Derek Ringer and had to call on the Subaru helicopter. By the time the cars reached the next service area, McRae was philosophical about his problems.
Yeah, we bent 3 dampers, we changed 2 in the stage and had to drive with 1 bent to the end.
And how much time has that delayed you by?
About, I think, 40 minutes from Tommy on the stage.
But still a long way to go.
Yeah, still a long way to go, yeah.
The end of the second leg saw the first major retirement among the championship contenders. Suspension failure on Carlos Sainz's Ford Escort had meant that he'd had to drive slowly through the afternoon sections. That had led to the engine overheating, and a dejected Sainz knew that his Safari rally was over. After that second place in Sweden, the Safari had promised so much, yet had ended so cruelly. In all, the rally lead had changed 3 times during the day. As the cars headed back to Nairobi, Kenneth Eriksson's Subaru was second. That meant that the Mitsubishi Lancer of Tommy Mäkinen led the Safari.
The last section was very good for us. Our car was working very well. Suspension was, I'm very happy for that.
For the second time in as many rallies, there'd be a 2-way fight on the third and final day. Again, though, heavy overnight rain had forced the cancellation of the first 2 of the day's sections, so it was left to the final 3 to decide the rally. Tommy Mäkinen knew that the winner's trophy was almost his. The Subaru of Eriksson wasn't far behind, but luck was definitely not on his side. A puncture on the first section cost over 11 minutes, and Kenneth was left hoping that the Mitsubishi would have similar problems.
Yeah, I looked stressed because I had a drive shaft as well, for no reason at all. So I lost the brakes.
there's still a long way to go. There's next stage, which is very difficult, 214 kilometers and very rough.
Ford's championship hopes were now resting on the veteran Stig Blomqvist, who'd finish in 7th place. Kenjiro Shinazuka in the second of the Mitsubishis finished 6th, a good, safe performance. Another steady run resulted in Piero Liati bringing his Subaru home in 5th place. 4th was McRae, sliding around in the African mud, instead of the dry, dusty conditions all the teams had been expecting. Ian Duncan's softly approach hadn't paid off, although a relatively trouble-free run had ended with 3rd place. Suspension problems on day 2, the only hiccup.
Medium right opens to easy right.
Kenneth Eriksson must have been wondering where all his good luck had gone. A series of punctures and broken drive shafts had finally cost him the chance of victory on the Safari Rally. He'd driven superbly throughout, but victory wasn't to be his. That didn't stop him trying, though. Just look at the state his brakes are in at the very last service halt.
I tried my best, and Tommy and Mitsubishi, they did a fantastic rally, and it's just to congratulate them. They are really fantastic, but I hope we can take them next time.
That left the Mitsubishi Lancer of Tommy Mäkinen to take a deserved victory, his second in as many rallies.
Thank you, thank you. It's unbelievable feeling. It's something very, very big.
Mitsubishi naturally were delighted. When one victory comes on snow and the other is won on a mixture of dust, rocks and deep mud, that's the mark of a world champion in the making. Tommy's winning margin was over 14 minutes, with Eriksson, Duncan, McRae and Liati making up the rest of the top 5. Amazingly, the top 10 was separated by nearly 4.5 hours. In the 2 championship tables, Mäkinen had extended his lead to 17 points from Eriksson, while 2 wins from 2 events ensured maximum points. In the Manufacturers' Championship, Mitsubishi still led, a 4-point advantage over Subaru, with Ford a distant 3rd. 1996 saw the first visit of the World Rally Championship to Asia, with round 3, the Rally Indonesia, providing a colourful and noisy introduction for the championship regulars.
Our car is in good condition, everything. We have done a lot of test kilometers, and Michelin made some new tire for us, and it's, I feel very confident.
With nearly 200 million inhabitants, Indonesia is the 4th most populated country in the world. 9 special stages made up leg 1 of the rally, which took the cars from the start in the city of Medan southwards to the first overnight halt in Parapat. Mäkinen finished 3rd here last year, so knows how difficult the rally can be. Heavy rain in the weeks leading up to the rally made the going tough for all the crews. McRae, who won last year, used all the road to negotiate this right-hander and quite a bit of the ditch on the way out.
I think nowadays the tactic is quite easy. You have to just go as fast as you can from the beginning.
Kankinen made a welcome return to the series in Indonesia and quickly settled into the slippery stages. Carlos Sainz was on his first visit to this event, although you'd never have guessed. Kenneth Eriksson's another driver who's competed on this event before, on his way to becoming Asia-Pacific champion.
Slippery break, vinkel höger.
One of Eriksson's competitors in that series was Richard Burns, who was destined to become the first retirement of this year's rally.
15.
At the end of the first stage, we had a slippy corner in the notes, and the car just didn't turn into the corner, and it rode up a small bank on the outside and then just nudged the tree, which wouldn't have been too much of a problem, but it damaged the oil cooler.
Sainz was joined in Indonesia by the Welshman Gwyndaf Evans, who's responsible for a lot of the Ford team's test and development work. Piero Liati had a new co-driver, Fabrizio Pons, and the Italian pair was soon in the thick of things. The damage to the front of the Impreza a clue as to what happened.
We met 2 trees just in the middle of the road, and they didn't move, so we banged. into them.
Mäkinen was another who'd been colliding with bits of Indonesia. In his case, as the side of his Lancer suggests, it was a little more serious.
Grip was very good, and then suddenly extremely slippy. It was no grip at all, and started sliding and straight to the concrete bridge, and over the concrete bridge it's bent quite hard.
McRae was now locked in battle with Mäkinen for the lead. Considering the conditions, it was a close contest which McRae was pleased to be leading.
Yeah, it's been good, fairly close, but very difficult with the inconsistency of the conditions, but that's par for the course here.
Behind the leading pair, third place was also hotly contested. Kankinen, displaying yet more battle scars, and his navigator Nicky Grist demonstrate just how slippery the conditions were.
Keep right of the jump to absolute right of the crest. Then 120, long bad right tight.
Richard Burns was about to be joined on the road back to Medan. This time, though, it was Subaru who suffered.
Kenneth's hit a bridge parapet, and it seems that Tommy Mäkinen had a bit of good fortune, hit the same bridge parapet and carried on, but Kenneth stopped.
Ford, too, were suffering. Sainz had gearbox problems.
The problem is I've lost the third and the fourth gear, so I have to go from second to fifth, and it's not so easy because stages are quite slow.
Liati must have thought he'd had his problems for the day. He hadn't. The first day had one last trick up its sleeve. Mitsubishi, then Subaru had lost cars. Now it was Ford's turn. Gwyndaf Evans retired his Escort with the simplest of faults.
Of SS9, we appear to have run out of fuel. Over.
And he got some fuel from a roadside place, 4 litres, which got him going. Of course, when he came here, he told us what he'd done, and that's outside the regulations. So we had no option, but that's it. He's out of the rally.
The end finally of an amazing day, although ahead of the remaining crews lay day 2's 7 stages, which would bring them back to Parapat after a little over 12 hours on the road. The lush green paddy field soon saw the first retirement of leg 2, Tommy Mäkinen.
Radiator was leaking and engine just overheat and blew up.
That meant McRae was now out on his own.
Excitement's gone out of it. It's very, very difficult to drive for 2 days when you've got a 3-minute gap. It's always nice to fight all the way to the end.
Displaying evidence of yet another close encounter with a bush, Sainz was engaged in the fight for second place with Liati. Conditions were, if anything, getting worse.
Like driving with slicks on the ice in Monte Carlo or something like that.
Juha Kankinen too was struggling.
30. Long medium left. 70. I've ever seen anything look bad.
The conditions were incredible. I mean, it was like riding on a bar of soap in the bath.
The rally leader at the end of the day was McRae.
When it rains here, you can't believe how slippy it is. It makes it quite interesting.
And so to day 3 and the start of the last and longest leg. 13 hours of competition over 11 stages took the crews back to Medan and the finishing ramp. The morning saw the spectacular and needless retirement of the leader. Intercom failure meant that McRae and Derek Ringer had to resort to hand signals, a system that obviously didn't work.
Well, it's crashed. I can't put it more bluntly than that. We don't know a lot more at the moment. He's come on the radio. Sounds pretty serious. Derek, they're both okay. That's the first thing, of course, but Derek said the car was very bad.
Ahead of McRae, the long walk back to face the music. As the rally drew to a close, some pretty unfamiliar names filled the leaderboard. Retsa Pribadi was 5th, while Yoshio Fujimoto was 4th. Kankinen had inherited the lead after McRae's accident, but that lead was to be short-lived.
Just broke, you know, the intercooler radiator, and okay, of course, then air temperature goes up, and then you have to just drive slowly.
The drive of the final day came from Liati.
Today is fantastic for me because the rally is very, very good. The team is fantastic. The tire is incredible. It's incredible. It's very, very happy.
But it was to be Carlos Sainz who would win the rally. An incredible result at the end of what had been a fairly incredible rally, although the dramas hadn't yet finished.
We have been excluded from the rally from immediate effect. We are not accepting this. We categorically deny it.
As it turned out, the exclusion for an alleged servicing irregularity was overturned, and a relieved Sainz could take his first win of the year.
I cannot put into words my feelings. To be with Carlos in 87 and 88, it was always my life's dream to win this. Just brilliant.
I think it's a great effort for the whole team. We have been working hard from the beginning of the season, and I think it has been working well.
At long last, the taste of champagne for Sainz and co-driver Lewis Moyer. The winning margin, 23 seconds from Liati, Kankinen and Fujimoto. Local drivers occupied most of the remaining top 10 places. In the Drivers' Championship, Mäkinen still led despite his retirement, although Sainz's victory meant that he was now only 5 points behind. Subaru now led the manufacturers' table, with Ford having closed the gap on Mitsubishi. The third hot event in a row came next, Greece's Acropolis Rally.
Of new stages, but always with the same characteristic: very rough, very rocky, very bumpy, and that is the general condition of it. Has been always like that.
Very rough. It seems a lot rougher than normal, a bit slower and more twisty, but very tough for the tyres and the car.
The event is run on the mainland of Greece on the coast of the Mediterranean. Leg 1 comprised 8 special stages, which took the cars northwestwards from the start in Athens to the first overnight halt in the town of Kamina Vorla. Following his retirement in Asia, McRae seemed inspired in Greece. A blistering time on the first stage saw him take a lead of 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I was very surprised. The engine didn't feel good at all on the way up, but everybody was complaining of the same thing. And the way down, obviously, we went very well, but it didn't feel so good.
Mäkinen was quickly off in pursuit, but it seemed he could do nothing to catch McRae. Sweden's Thomas Rodström was the first to quit. Forced to run in the dust of a much slower Group N car, the almost inevitable accident put pay to what had been an encouraging performance. He'd been inside the top 5 on his very first visit to Greece.
It was a very easy corner and just off a little bit and then hit a big stone and then rolled.
By the afternoon, with McRae and Mäkinen already engaged in their own private battle, the chasing pack were left trailing. Liati in the Subaru and Sainz in the Ford Escort were 2 of the drivers chasing 3rd place, together with the Subaru of Kenneth Eriksson. Behind those 3, meanwhile, was Sainz's 4th teammate in as many rallies, Bruno Thierry.
Yes, I can tell you I'm very pleased to be here after 6 months in activity, and we still with the same team, with Ford Motorsport, and yes, I'm quite happy to be here.
Thierry made a good start, although individual performances were about to be overshadowed by controversy. McRae arrived at the next service halt, where the talk was of stage 6, or more correctly, one particular corner.
After the recce, we recce'd a certain way, which was correct, and then we came on the rally and the organisers had blocked that road. And we almost had an accident, went off the road trying to avoid the blockage.
By some reason the spectators block it because they want us to make the hairpin. So when we arrived there, it was all blocked, and then we spun and we lost some time.
From Mäkinen's car, you can see a large log on the right blocking the stage. Yet when Thierry goes through, the log has gone, allowing him to take the shortcut. When Liati goes through, the log's back again.
There are two alternative routes round sort of effectively a hairpin bend, and it's always open and the drivers take their own route round it the fastest quite naturally. Quite clearly it's not being marshalled properly and not being supervised effectively, and naturally the drivers are very upset about the situation, as am I.
Kenneth Eriksson, who had a big problem totally unrelated to that junction, has ended up with his penalty being deleted. So it's changed the rally quite a bit.
With Eriksson restored to third place, at least one man was happy.
But it's been a good decision on your part.
Fortunate.
As the day drew to a close, Mäkinen was second, ahead of Eriksson. But McRae still led, helped by that amazing performance on stage one.
Yeah, it's going very well. I'm a bit surprised, but quite happy.
The second leg contained a total of 7 stages in the mountains to the west of Kamina Vorla. The Greek spectators, always wildly enthusiastic, sensed that McRae wasn't prepared to throw away first place as he'd done in Indonesia. He began well and would do everything he could to safeguard the lead. Mäkinen was in hot pursuit, but knew that McRae would be difficult to catch. Sainz had his sights set on Eriksson's third place. Despite the warning sign, Patrick Bernardini's problems weren't down to his lack of experience, although having a co-driver to balance out a broken wheel is an advantage. The Italian Grifone team were also having their fair share of problems. Gilberto Pianezzola's door was only one of them. Rather more serious was this little incident. Tyres were becoming something of an issue. The rough Greek stages were making tyre choice difficult for all the teams. Mitsubishi, like Ford, were running on Michelin, while Pirelli tyres were used by the Subaru team. The Mäkinen-McRae battle was still going on, although the Scotsman would still lead at the end of day 2, despite that spin. His lead was now 45 seconds. Behind them, Sainz had finally taken that third place.
I think things are looking a little bit better today. If we consider we are a little bit with a handicap of weight, I think the car is working better than in Indonesia.
Eriksson, meanwhile, had slipped to 4th. Liati, always the faithful team player, was 5th. Leg 3 consisted of 6 special stages, none of which was less than 20 kilometres in length. The cars left Kamina Vorla at 8:30 in the morning for the long, hot drive back to Athens. McRae began the day fairly well, although he was 3 seconds slower than Mäkinen on the very first stage.
And hairpin left. Into 4 right plus, tightens long.
No, we're struggling. I mean, we tried hard on the 2 stages and Tommy was a lot quicker, so...
Mäkinen was charging on the morning of day 3 and took 20 seconds off McRae in a little over 70 kilometres. Aside from the battle for the lead, Belgium's Freddy Loix was 7th, while his fellow countryman Bruno Thierry was 6th. There were more serious problems for the Subaru of Kenneth Eriksson. The Swede had to stop and change a puncture which cost over 3 minutes and dropped him a place. That handed 4th to Piero Liati. Yet again, a steady and remarkable drive was rewarding the Subaru team with valuable championship points. Trying to ignore the huge drops, Sainz and Lewis Moyer would end the rally in 3rd place.
think we are improving slowly, and the important thing is to keep this line up all the time and to be consistent in the top 3 and to keep improving the car like we are doing.
By now, McRae was back in charge. Quickest on the first 2 stages of the afternoon, he looked set to take victory by nearly a minute. Then, as the cars headed for the final stage, an ominous rumble meant last-minute dramas for the Subaru team. McRae had a broken bearing in his Impreza's prop shaft, a job which would take his mechanics around 15 minutes to fix, but they only had 10. In the end, the repair took just 9 minutes, and the car reached the time control with 3 seconds to spare. Tommy Mäkinen could only look on as McRae's car started the last stage with a lead of 42 seconds and no time penalties. A relieved McRae could finally take his first win of the year. Indonesia's accident now very much forgotten.
It was getting a bit dodgy earlier on today, but it's worked out okay.
Mäkinen finished a frustrating second.
Unfortunately, last couple of stages was so rough and we couldn't go flat out because tire wearing was so bad.
"50 seconds McRae's winning margin, with Mäkinen, Sainz, Liati and Ericsson finishing in that order. Bruno Thierry finished 6th. Mäkinen still led the Drivers' Championship, but McRae was now catching Sainz. At almost the halfway point in the season, those 5 drivers could still take the title. It was very much the same in the Manufacturers' Series, although Subaru now had a lead of 40 points. From a European summer to a South American winter, as the series crossed the Atlantic for the Rally Argentina.
I'm going to try my best anyway. Obviously I need to keep the points up. Tommy's still got a good points lead, so I'll try my best.
I feel very confident again to make a good competition between the other drivers.
The rally is based in the foothills of the Andes Mountains, northwest of the capital city, Buenos Aires. Leg 1 comprised 13 stages to the west of the headquarters city, Cordoba, covering nearly 200 kilometers and taking the cars around 9 hours to complete. Mäkinen quickly made his intentions obvious and took an early lead. For McRae, though, there were spectator problems.
4 right.
Rallying is almost a religion in South America, and those huge crowds cause problems for all the teams, as McRae explained.
One spectator. There's far too many spectators standing on the road everywhere.
You can get an idea of a driver's eye view of the huge crowds from Sainz's car, or from this helicopter shot of Ericsson. But once clear of the spectators, it became obvious that the battle from the Acropolis was still very much on. Mäkinen might have led, but McRae was off in hot pursuit. Yet, for the second time in 1996, McRae was overdue at a service area. Then he turned up, minus the car.
We had an accident on the last stage about 2 kilometres from the end. That's it, finished.
That left Kenneth Ericsson upholding Subaru honours. It was now vital that both remaining cars finished. Piero Liati in the third car was now elevated into the point scoring. Sainz in the leading Ford Escort began well, although yet again problems weren't far away. This time the transmission to the front wheels broke, leaving the car with effectively 3-wheel drive. By the time the car reached the next service area, the decision had already been made to swap the broken part on Sainz's car with the unbroken shaft on Thierry's.
It was something broken in the front diff, and it was difficult. I mean, we have 3-wheel drive. For 2 stages, we lost 1 minute and 50 seconds.
This was normal for me to give him this part. I had to understand that.
So Thierry was left struggling until the end of the day, when the fault could finally be fixed. After his retirement in Indonesia, Richard Burns had some making up to do. His Mitsubishi was setting some fairly quick times and his run was trouble-free, although Richard himself was complaining of a bad head cold. There were no such problems for Mäkinen, who ended day 1 with a lead of 26 seconds.
Heikkavasen eri. 20 huomioon.
You're very confident, I can tell.
Yeah, I can put a little bit more if I want.
Ericsson was second, making good use of the in-car drinks bottle. Third was Liati, so both Subarus were well placed, even if the team leader was already on his way home. For Sainz, his problems hadn't ended with the transmission failure.
It was going okay for a while, and then we did the last 4 stages without power steering, so it was not very good day.
Leg 2 of the rally consisted of 10 stages to the north of Cordoba. Another 9-hour day would see a further 200 kilometres of competition, including the super special stage at Jesus Maria. Mäkinen and Seppo Harjana were fastest on 2 of the first 3 stages of the day, and their only problem was a spin on the 4th, caught by our in-car camera. Ericsson knew that he'd have his work cut out to catch Mäkinen. He, though, would have a troubled day, as would Piero Liati, although the Italian's problems were more serious.
In big jump, very, very fast, and the car is completely out, and the problem, the gearbox in this moment.
For once, Sainz was flying. Liati's miserable day continued, with the car stopped on one stage, allowing the Toyota of Rui Madeira to speed past. At the next service, the Subaru mechanics had yet more work to do. Burns was winning his battle against his cold. He was now 4th.
To easy right long, to slow fast left.
Sainz was finally trouble-free and in 3rd place.
Para derecha acá posible cuarta de tierra. Sassar. Para izquierda acá.
Ericsson ended the day in 2nd place, and Mäkinen would be in his sights at the start of the 3rd and final day.
Maybe it was that I losing second instead of gaining second to Tommy today, but now they will put the new center diff in and we will try again tomorrow. But it's 55 seconds, it's a bit long way, but why not?
It had been another thrilling performance from Mäkinen, who by now was starting to dominate the championship. Would this be his 3rd victory of the year?
Our car is still in perfect condition, and just keep going like same as today.
The 3rd and final day contained just 5 special stages, firstly to the north and then south of Cordoba, and would prove to be the most controversial day of the rally, if not the entire championship so far. It was the very first stage of the day which provided that controversy. From Mäkinen's in-car camera, you can just make out something blocking the little track which goes off to the left, forcing him to go right. If we go on board with the next driver along, Kenneth Ericsson, and stop the tape, you can clearly see the way ahead is blocked, but Kenneth carries on regardless. If we again freeze the action, this time of Richard Burns, you can clearly see the blockage. Burns too was forced to take the wrong route.
According to road book, we should turn to the left, but we couldn't because it was blocked with the bushes and stones, and we had to take long loop from the right about 1 kilometer without notes.
My view is that I risk my life. I try to be professional. Maybe I'm not the best, but I try to be professional. And the organizers this year, they are proving that they are not professionals, they're just amateurs.
The stage continued, although just as in Greece, it was Ericsson who would be affected the most by the events. In Greece, it was steering damage, but this time it was a puncture. Again, just as in Greece, it would be Carlos Sainz who would stand to benefit.
Then after 24 we come into a very, very fast section, and then just the tire explodes, so we had to stop and change, and we just managed before Carlos coming. It has been 5 seconds more we could have pulled out in front of him, but we couldn't manage, so we lost a lot of time there.
As the row rumbled on, Gilberto Pianezzola was able to bring his Toyota home in 6th place. 5th was Thierry, who must have wondered how he'd have done without the time loss on day 1. Burns was a promising fourth. He'd done more miles on this one event than during the whole of the first half of the year and was coming to terms with the Mitsubishi at last. Third was Ericsson, after dropping a place when the stewards refused to cancel stage 24. Unlike Greece, this time his misfortune was to cost him a place. A relieved Sainz could then finish second, although again, how would he have done without day one's three-wheel drive dilemma?
Definitely we have made a step forward and car is now becoming more and more competitive each time.
Mäkinen could take victory number 3. These scenes were fast becoming the norm for the finish of a rally.
No, of course I'm very happy. It was absolutely perfect.
Never one to turn down the chance to spray some champagne, Tommy and Seppo were now on course to equal Didier Auriol's record of 6 wins in a season. Mäkinen's winning margin was confirmed at 1 minute 35 seconds from Sainz, and an unhappy Kenneth Eriksson was third. Burns and Thierry rounded off the top 5. His win left Mäkinen with a lead of 13 points in the World Drivers' Championship. Sainz was still second, but McRae's retirement means that he dropped to 4th behind Eriksson. In the Manufacturer Series, Subaru still led, but Mitsubishi had closed the gap to 22 points. The Midnight Sun, a typically Scandinavian picture. A postcard around every corner, yet the scenery only tells half the story. This is the country whose drivers have dominated the FIA World Rally Championship since it began, and the country which staged the Thousand Lakes Rally, round 6 of this year's series, Finland. Before the rally, Colin McRae was fined by the FIA for speeding in Argentina.
But obviously there was no crowd control at all. The service area was very busy. I hit one person who fell over, but not. They say I was speeding in the service area, but I can't say I wasn't, but I don't think I was.
Well, I can't condone Colin in that particular situation. I certainly can't condemn him at the same time.
Finland, in the very north of Europe, spends much of the year under a blanket of snow and ice, but the rally at the end of August was run in glorious sunshine. Based in the city of Jyväskylä, leg 1 consisted of 10 stages. The very first of those was cancelled by the organisers after a serious accident, when one car left the road and hit a group of spectators, killing one. The Thousand Lakes organisers are rightly concerned about spectator safety, but it seems there's no guarding against a freak accident. Tommy Mäkinen was first on the road, which meant that he was sweeping the road of gravel for the others. Despite that spin and the conditions, Mäkinen was in the top 3 throughout the first morning. The early leader, though, was Juha Kankinen on his 3rd and final World Championship event of the year.
Very long pass left of a crest.
His teammate Marcus Gronholm was second after the first stage.
Yeah, I don't think it's a major thing. Whatever we have done is to change the power, to have a little bit more power at the bottom, better response, and it's maybe more to my driving style than anything else.
There were early problems for the Ford team, though. It seemed their run of bad luck was continuing.
The pipe that goes to the boost pressure sensor came off, so therefore he had no boost.
In this rally, 1 minute and a half, it's a hell of a lot of time.
Bruno Thierry, too, wasn't happy.
What's happened with Bruno?
He's broken a front prop shaft.
The leading escort, in fact, was the privately run car of Jarmo Kuteleito. Surprisingly, perhaps, Kenneth Eriksson was the leading Subaru driver. The Thousand Lakes is another event which favours the Scandinavians, and Colin McRae wasn't enjoying himself. The visit to the FIA in Paris had interrupted his reconnaissance of the rally, and he was about to pay the price.
And 6 left, tightens line.
His 3rd crash of the year left Subaru with a repair bill of around $1 million, so no wonder McRae was whisked away to the motorhome.
I don't know whether it was a wrong note or a corner. There was something to do with the notes. We slid off the road and the car hit the bank and rolled over.
Championship finished now?
It's finished now, yeah.
At the end of day 1, Marcus Gronholm was 3rd. Tommy Mäkinen had recovered slightly. He was now 2nd.
että nyppy jatkuu pirun pitkä vasen eri, kiristyy vähän. Ja vittu kun aukee. 30.
First car on the road, there's a lot of loose gravel and dust. It's, I mean, I think it's quite big advance to come a little bit later.
But it was the master, Juha Kankkunen, together with his Welsh co-driver Nicky Grist, who would lead the rally going into day 2. Nicky even having enough time for a wave for the camera. Kankkunen admitted that he was pleased with the day's work.
A very good day, I must say. I mean, a little bit surprised even myself in the morning about the times, but good day.
Day 2 consisted of 12 special stages, this time to the south and then to the north of Jyväskylä, before returning to the city for the final stage of the day. It was now Kankkunen's Toyota which was sweeping the roads for the Mitsubishi of Mäkinen, and the times immediately reflected the change.
It's completely different grip than yesterday, and that's why it's I'm quite a lot faster.
It's still okay. I mean, if you compare the times to the other boys, it's fine, even to be first car on the road. But Tommy is the only bandito who is going well.
Besides the battle for the lead, Kyteläto was now clawing back time and was starting to threaten third place. Gronholm, like Kankkunen, had a fight on his hands. Bruno Thierry had another miserable day. He began it in 11th place and soon lost even more time. An electrical fault put pay to any hopes he'd had of a good result. The Ford jinx was continuing.
1 kilometer before the finish, the engine stopped suddenly. And it was for me difficult to start the engine again, and we lost 11 minutes in the stage.
Harry Rovanperä, like Kyteläto, was another Finn in a Ford. He, though, was about to see his native country the wrong way up, and he retired soon afterwards. Rallying's almost a national sport in Finland, and huge crowds were sunning themselves in the forests watching the action. Things were pretty stable, though. Ericsson ended day 2 in 5th place. Jarmo Kyteläto's escort was 4th, although the Finn was relieved to have reached Jyväskylä.
At the end of the day, we had the troubles with the clutch, and the last stages we drive very slowly and carefully and try to get the car in the service area.
Marcus Gronholm was 3rd, but he'd have one eye on his mirror on day 3.
I hope I could push a little bit more tomorrow, and Kyteläto is coming very good also, so we have to go.
Kankkunen, though, had lost the battle for the lead and would start the final leg in 2nd place. But would the conditions now favour him?
I have nothing to lose, only to win. So, I mean, I will go as fast as I can, and Tommy still have to think about the championship a little bit, but I don't need to think about that, so I can just go.
Mäkinen, though, led the rally, something he was getting used to.
It's been very good day, yes. Not even any minor problem.
Leg 3 to the west of Jyväskylä contained just 6 special stages, although the final day also had the earliest start, 6 a.m. Day 3 would see Ford's problem strike for the very last time. Sainz thought he'd almost made it to the finish when disaster struck. On the very last stage of the rally, mechanical failure brought his event to a cruel end.
He's lost all drive to all 4 wheels. There's no forward motion at all. Something's broken in the transmission, and that's it.
Sainz's exit left Thomas Rodstrom in 6th place for Toyota. Ericsson was 5th in the sole remaining Subaru. Then came the first of the 2 all-finish battles for 3rd place. In the end, Marcus Gronholm lost out to Jarmo Kyteläto, the Toyota losing time to the Ford on each one of the final 6 stages, allowing Kyteläto to take a deserved 3rd place. The other battle for the lead was pretty much cut and dried. Despite Kankkunen's years of experience, he was destined to finish 2nd, although not without a fight. And so, yet again, for the 4th time this year, it was Mäkinen who won.
I have to say it was one of the most difficult rally to win. I think Juha made it so difficult. He did very good work.
Tommy's winning margin was 46 seconds, with Kankkunen second and Kyteleito third. Gronholm, Lindholm and Lampi meant that of the top 8 finishers, 6 were Finns. His victory lifted Mäkinen to 95 points in the Drivers' Championship table, a lead now of 33 points. Mitsubishi also moved ahead of Subaru in the Manufacturers' Series, with Ford still third. Next came the long journey south to Australia.
The first stage of the rally, the atmosphere is just boiling. 15,000 people there, and it's just something fantastic. You had to be there on the spot to understand the feeling what they have done here.
Ericsson was referring to Langley Park, to many the future of rallying. Perth, the capital of Western Australia on the coast of the Indian Ocean, once again provided the base for this year's rally. Apart from 2 visits to Langley Park, Leg 1's 11 stages were all to the south of the city. After all his problems in Finland, Sainz was the early leader. He obviously hoped he'd be out of the headlines. Some hope.
I went off in junction and I hit the cameraman. I don't know.
Nobody damaged, nobody hurt?
I don't think so. Only the camera and the car a little bit.
It was soon business as usual. Mäkinen quickly took over the lead and knew that victory would virtually guarantee him the driver's title. Kenneth Eriksson, though, also needed a good result to clinch his second Asia-Pacific title and was trying hard to catch Tommy. McRae started cautiously, keen that Australia wouldn't be a repeat of Finland, Argentina or Indonesia. Bruno Thierry began superbly, second after stage 2 to Sainz. However, the all-too-familiar story wasn't long in coming. Restored to the team after missing the 1,000 Lakes, Piero Liati was another who began well. His problems, though, were uniquely Australian.
Unfortunately, we were killing a kangaroo.
Australian Neil Bates lost his wipers, then hit muddy water, the perfect combination for zero visibility.
Where the wiper arm runs under the scuttle panel, the rod broke and we had no windscreen wipers. And that sounds like a simple problem, but it was so muddy out there and we ended up losing 7 minutes in the stage.
After his 4th place back in Argentina, a confident Richard Burns came to Australia minus the head cold. He was 5th at the end of day 1. 4th was McRae, although he admitted he wasn't trying 100%.
I just don't feel very confident in the stages and the tyres, so I'm taking it a bit easy.
Eriksson was 3rd, but needed only to finish ahead of Burns to secure the Asia-Pacific title.
This is normally my worst day, so knock on wood. I think I'm looking very optimistic for tomorrow and also for the last day when we go up to York and Mandering Forest, so I'm looking very optimistic.
2nd was Sainz. 37 seconds separated Sainz from the overnight leader, Mäkinen. Tommy, though, was on winning form. It seemed nothing could stop him. Even his mechanical worries were minor ones.
It's been a very good day. Not any bigger problems. Just on the long stage we broke front dampers.
The second leg's 8 stages were all southeast of Perth, the only exception being the 3rd and final visit to Langley Park. A 6 a.m. start saw the cars heading off towards the massive Bunnings forest. Mäkinen led the cars into Bunnings, although Mother Nature was about to play a little game with the drivers. The dark Australian skies unfortunately meant rain, and more rain. Mäkinen and Seppo Harjanne were the first to sample Bunnings in the rain. they'd been warned about the famous water splash, now much deeper and wider than usual. As they approach, Mäkinen slows right down almost a walking pace and keeps to the right-hand side of the road. To the delight of the huge crowd, the Mitsubishi makes it through. Tommy, though, is far from happy.
Tommy, are the conditions improving at all?
No, not at all. It's completely stupid to keep this last left-hand corner.
For Carlos Sainz, the water splash would be very different. Despite receiving the same warning as Mäkinen from the marshals at the stage start, Sainz approaches the water a lot faster and takes a more central line, with disastrous results. 2 minutes behind Sainz was the Subaru of Kenneth Eriksson. Would he too fall victim to the Bunnings water splash? Despite keeping to the right, just as Mäkinen had done, Kenneth tries to drive through too quickly and the water claims its second victim. By now, Sainz is out of the car and is watching events in disbelief. McRae is next and he approaches at speed. Moya tries to flag down the Subaru and McRae's own gravel crew are on the left, urging him to take the right-hand line through the water to no avail. Colin's father, the former British champion Jimmy McRae, helps push the car clear of the water. Luckily, Colin keeps the engine running and is able to drive out of the stage.
Obviously the ford's far too deep. It was crazy to even think we could go through there. It's like a river, it's not a ford.
By now, Sainz, Eriksson and the others were getting angrier by the minute. Everyone, even David Richards, tried to help, but to no avail. Surely the organisers had no option but to cancel the stage. Thierry's spluttering engine told its own story, but the situation was now beyond a joke.
Yeah, it looks more like a boat race than a car race. It was absolutely unnecessary to have this deep water because we are all stopped here and maybe 5 or 6 cars destroyed the engine here, so we had to stop the rally.
Eventually the stage was cancelled, leaving the cars to drive on to the next stage in convoy. Bruno Thierry's car, though, would splutter on for a while.
Bruno, the engine sounds terrible.
Straight after the start, misfire. All the stage was misfire. You can hear.
At the end of the day, McRae was fourth, although he had a few scares along the way. Sainz, grateful to have escaped Bunnings unscathed, was third, while Eriksson, also relieved, had climbed to second place.
No, I had a small fire in the car, so next stage I think I will take some sausage with me so we can have a party inside, but I think it's due to the river crossing we did when it was just flooded inside the car with water.
Mäkinen was still leading the rally and stood to clinch the Drivers' Championship if things stayed as they were.
It's quite good lead at the moment and car is in perfect condition.
Leg 3's 8 special stages to the east of Perth would decide not only the rally, but also possibly one of the 2 World Championships with 2 rounds still to go. Behind the leaders, Thierry would finish a disappointing 6th. Burns was set to come home in 5th place, another strong result. McRae was 4th, although seemingly satisfied with his performance. Sainz began the final day 31 seconds away from that vital second place, and the race was on. No matter how Eriksson drove, Sainz was taking time off him on every stage.
Till höger 5, till vänster 5, i höger 5 plus, till vänster 5, 40 twist.
By now, Mäkinen had relaxed a little, although he still drove through the last stage like a man possessed. His 5th win of the year was now inevitable.
Well done.
But would he also claim the championship? For once, the answer lay with someone else. Kenneth clung on to second place, and Sainz knew that the fight was over.
I think Tommy deserved this championship and he has been driving fantastically, so no objection. Congratulations. It's an unbelievable feeling. It was one of the most hardest pressure today.
Yet more champagne, his 5th victory of the year, and still 2 rounds to go. Mäkinen's winning margin was 1 minute and 17 seconds from Ericsson, whose second place was enough to give him victory in the Asia-Pacific Championship. Sainz finished third, McRae fourth and Burns fifth. To confirm the Drivers' Championship positions, Mäkinen, with 115 points, is the new world champion. Sainz has 74 points, while Ericsson now has 66. The Manufacturers' Series, however, is still wide open. Mitsubishi still lead, although the gap is just 9 points. The series returned to Europe for the final 2 rallies. The penultimate round, round 8, was the San Remo rally in Italy, which began with the latest in a long line of prestigious retirements. Mäkinen, the newly crowned World Drivers' Champion, lasted only a kilometre.
So much too fast that it was just lifting a little bit over the crest, and slightly side, just half a meter, but immediately there was a hell of a big concrete.
Tommy wasn't the only finished retirement on stage 1. Jarmo Cutuleto also crashed out early.
Bad luck, Jarmo. Bad luck. That's life.
With loose gravel causing 1 or 2 problems for the front runners, Andrea Dalla Villa was the surprise leader of the rally, although normal service would soon be resumed. Piero Liati on his home event was soon in second place, although the slippery gravel even caught him out. Once Dalla Villa had slipped back, Colin McRae inherited the lead.
And 6 left into 4 left plus line and
The ever-spectacular McRae was delighting the crowds, and his boss for once. Bruno Thierry ended the short first day in 7th place. Ericsson was 6th in the first of the 3 Subarus. Mitsubishi, meanwhile, had brought along a secret weapon, the 1994 world champion.
And suddenly, Mitsubishi called me and, okay, big smiling, and happy to be here.
By the end of the day, a smiling, happy Oriol was 5th.
Attention, gauche 5, attention, attention intérieur, 5 attention, attention intérieur.
Sainz would have been 5th, but deliberately incurred a 10-second penalty and dropped to 8th, hoping that the extra 3 cars sweeping the road of gravel would help. Then came the first of the local drivers, Gilberto Pianezzola, whose Toyota was 4th. The identical car of Dalla Villa was now 3rd after that dramatic start, while Liati in the Subaru was 2nd.
Destra 2 meno lunga e sinistra 2 più e destra 3 più.
Once again, it was Liati's teammate McRae who led the rally. With Mäkinen out of the way, it was imperative to score maximum manufacturers' points.
Colin, good day?
Yeah, very good. I think the time here was very good, so very happy.
A windy start to the second day. The longest day saw McRae set off with a slender lead over his teammate. Liati, though, was in hot pursuit on stages he knows well. But on the morning of day 2, we lost another Italian, Dalla Villa, who rolled his Toyota into retirement. Pianezzola, meanwhile, was dropping back, unable perhaps to stand the pace of top-flight rallying. Oriol's debut for Mitsubishi wasn't going well either.
We think it's a centre diff failure, and under the present rules, of course, we can't change it till tonight, so I'm afraid we're going to slip down the leaderboard a little bit here.
A charging Sainz was beginning to threaten the leading pair. His gamble looked to have paid off, if only it hadn't rained. torrential rain on the 9th stage dramatically halted Sainz's progress.
Just before we start, 4 minutes before, it was giving incredible rain and we lost half a minute.
Rui Madeira's problems were a little more obvious. This off meant instant retirement. And so to the end of the gravel stages. By the time the cars headed back towards San Remo, Thierry was 5th. Ericsson was 4th. While Liati had slipped to 3rd.
Più in tornantone destro.
Sainz and Moya were now 2nd, just 32 seconds behind the leader. 2nd place had eluded them in Australia, but in Italy they were out to win. McRae, though, was where he enjoyed being, out in front and on the edge. He'd lead the rally into the 3rd and final day, even if there was still the odd moment of over-enthusiasm. At the last service area of the day, the mechanics had to change the cars from gravel to tarmac specification. With San Remo changing to an all-tarmac format for next year, this was the final time this will ever happen.
I have nothing to lose. I have to push and I'm pushing hard. Yesterday I was pushing hard and today I will push hard and tomorrow the same. But if I don't finish, it's not a big drama.
There was drama, though, right at the start of day 3. Liati's Subaru refused to start and the Italians' rally was over.
The car wouldn't start. Was no way to start it.
McRae, the overnight leader, set off into the mountains north of San Remo with a slender lead. The heavy drizzle falling on an already damp road would make life difficult. 2 minutes later and Sainz was on his way. As on so many other occasions this year, it was becoming a battle of the tyres as much as the drivers.
Yes, the tyre choice is becoming a little bit of headache because you have to choose the tyres here and make the stage 20 kilometers away and then make another stage later on. So we decided to go with the same tyres and Colin, that's it.
Carlos's times in the last 2 stages have been very good. So if he goes like that again, then it's obvious he's going to pass us. I don't want to take any risks.
Oriol, meanwhile, had battled through the problems of day 2 and would finish in 8th place, although the manufacturer's title was slipping away from Mitsubishi. Franco Cunico finished 6th in his privately run Escort, while a thrilling battle for 4th place ended with Ericsson relegated to 5th on the very last stage. Freddie Loix from Belgium had driven superbly to snatch 4th place from Ericsson.
Om rechts 70, 150 rechts 52, 50 links 63 rond.
The Toyota practically flew around the narrow, twisting mountain roads on the final day. Thierry took a deserved 3rd place. After all his disappointments, a podium finish was just reward. But at the front, the battle for the lead went right to the wire. McRae had been losing time to Sainz all day and began the final stage with a lead that had been trimmed down to just 11 seconds. Sainz could almost taste victory. McRae and Ringer reached the end of the last stage and held their breath. At the service area, the McRae family heard the news at the same time as Colin. He'd won by 22 seconds.
Obviously, with all the hassle I've had this year and the bad results, it's nice to win this rally. This is probably one of the rallies in the championship. It's very good to have in your record as a winner.
So McRae had 22 seconds to spare, although Ford's consolation came in the form of 2 podium finishes. That great final day drive by Loix gave Toyota 4th place. Although the Drivers' Championship had already been decided, Sainz was still in 2nd place behind Mäkinen, with McRae 4th. Subaru had now established a 33-point lead going into the final rally of the season. Round 9, the Rally Catalunya, was held in Carlos Sainz country.
Obviously here in Spain, for me it's something a little bit more special. I feel okay. I hope I can do my best.
Any team orders this year?
No team orders, but no team orders within the team. The only order is to win the manufacturer's title.
6 stages made up the first leg of the rally in the mountains west of the base town, Lloret-de-Mar. Huge crowds lined the mountain roads, and nearly all of them were there to cheer on one man, Carlos Sainz. However, after McRae and Mäkkinen's retirements in Catalonia, it was Sainz's turn.
Vamos, 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 vamos.
Bruno Thierry was then left flying the Ford flag.
Lewis was just before the corner and he said slowly, slowly. And even I was quite off the road because it was so slippery. I tell you, it was like ice.
Sainz and Moya were helicoptered back to Lloret, leaving the car still in the stage.
But it sounds as though in the roll they've damaged the engine and they can't restart the engine. So they're out of the rally at this moment in time.
Bruno, cheered on by his fan club, took an early and short-lived lead. Piero Liati was hard on his heels and snatched the lead on the second stage.
Per sinistra 4 più lunga. In destra 4.
The sensation of San Remo, Freddie Loix, was next and would run in the top 4 for much of the rally. Then came the San Remo winner, McRae, although the slippery Spanish stages weren't to his liking.
And right over crest then.
To start with, they were very inconsistent. It was very slippy and damp under the trees. The last 2 weren't so bad.
Mäkkinen had a replacement co-driver after Haryana had injured his back in San Remo, although they too had a moment on Sainz's bend. Richard Burns was once again driving the second Mitsubishi. Ericsson was another who had one of those moments he'd rather forget. With Sainz out, Oriol Gomez was now the leading Spaniard in 5th place. It was an amazing performance in the 2-wheel drive Renault Megane. Huge crowds packed the final stage of the day and saw Mäkkinen safely and frustratingly perhaps end day 1 in 5th place. McRae was 4th, for once playing a supporting role to one of his teammates. Loix was 3rd with another Belgian, Thierry 2nd, although just 6 seconds covered 2nd to 4th places. And so it was Liati's Subaru which led, but only just. Do you think now this is a rally you can win?
I think.
Day 2 began and ended with a long motorway drive south, with the day's 7 stages all based south of Barcelona. Liati set off with a slender lead, although running first on the road wasn't an issue for a change. He began to extend that advantage.
In sinistra 2 e destra 2 più. 30. Sinistra 3. 80.
Thierry began the day badly, a poor tyre choice costing time on all the morning stages.
The tyre choice that was made in conjunction with our tyre experts wasn't good enough. And the tyres just wore away, they lost grip, and that's the result is we lost 20 seconds to Piero.
Thierry's problem meant that Loix was now 2nd.
It was not a problem for me. I make it the right choice for the tire and it was okay.
Colin said it feels better when you swap it as well. You get less oversteering.
Everyone else was a bit slower. The Pirellis were obviously working a lot better on the harder stages.
Gomez too had tyre problems.
I explode the tire rear, and it's not a good day in this moment.
conditions were still catching people out. This is the Seat of Jesus Puras. By the end of the second day, Patrick Bernardini's escort was up to 6th place. Mäkinen and his new co-driver Juha Repo were still 5th.
10, K vasen, varos sisä, soraa.
While Thierry had recovered a little and was 4th. Loix was proving that his 4th place in San Remo hadn't been a fluke. He was in a strong 3rd place. McRae, though, had moved quietly up through the leaderboard. He ended day 2 in 2nd position, just 3 seconds behind the identical Subaru of Piero Liati.
3 seconds before calling. Tomorrow morning is the big attack, yes. Hopefully we can go for it and be the best man to win.
The 3rd and final leg was virtually a rerun of the 1st in the mountains west of Lloret. So, the last day of the last rally of the year, and things couldn't have been closer. The tension was evident. As the two Subarus battled it out, Richard Burns in the Mitsubishi became the last victim of a spectacular season.
To flat left, 6 Jesus.
Well, we heard on the radio that he had misunderstood a pace note and went off the road. I don't think it was a big accident, but he sounded very disappointed.
In Group N, the so-called showroom class, Uwe Nittel lost the title on the final afternoon due to a slow puncture. Gustavo Treyes from Uruguay picked up the World Championship after a terrific two-way struggle. But all eyes were on the head of the leaderboard. Bernardini finished 6th. Mäkinen finished 5th, but knew that Mitsubishi had lost the championship, while Loix had last-minute trouble.
The last 5-7 Ks, the car was still running on 3 cylinders. I don't know exactly the problem, but we lost a lot of time.
Like Loix, Bruno Thierry had a troubled afternoon. At the end of stage 17, his radio message to the team tells the story.
Yes, we have a big problem with the clutch. We are clear of the stage, but we have a big problem with the clutch.
Despite his worries, Thierry managed to finish 3rd. And so, yet again, the last stage would decide the rally. When Liati reached the end of the final stage, there was only one question. What was his time?
22:56.
McRae came through next, and he immediately knew that he'd done it.
54, so that means you've won it by 3 seconds, yes?
No, more than 3. Yeah, we've won it anyway. That's the main thing.
To be part of such a drama as this is what all World Championship rallying should be about. Right to the wire, decided over a handful of seconds on the last stage.
Victory donuts for McRae, although the champagne spraying was tinged with sadness. That would be his last event with Derek Ringer. The final positions. That 7-second margin giving McRae one of the closest victories of the year. Liati's 2nd place equalled his best result of the year in Indonesia, while Thierry, Loix and Mäkinen rounded off the top 5. McRae's victory in Catalonia lifted him into the runner-up position in the drivers' table above Sainz. Ericsson and Liati ended the year in 4th and 5th places respectively. Subaru's 1-2 gave them the manufacturer's title, but the size of their win surprised many. Catalonia also saw 2 of next year's machines unveiled. The wraps came off 2 new World Rally cars, one from Ford, the other from Subaru. With these cars, 14 rounds, and such a close finish to this year's series, 1997 will, I'm sure, be another vintage year.